as Charles mentioned, I belong to a company called Sullivan. Those of you who have not heard of Sullivan before, our core business is to publish a lot of research and reports on 11 to 12 different industries, right from automotive to aerospace defense to energy, environment, and so on. So I belong to a team called the Visionary Innovation Group, just as Charles mentioned, and we do a lot of future of megatrends, especially around future of cities, future of urbanization, future of technologies, and how this will implicate different business and different personal lives. What I have here today is very streamlined for this audience, is some findings from our latest report on future of smart and sustainable cities. And how we do this research is a combination of not only a lot of secondary research, but also talking to a lot of city stakeholders and a lot of companies within the smart city business. So very quickly, I will shoot off the agenda. I will define and introduce the concept of smart cities. You heard the concept of smart cities from an engineer point of view, and today, now you will hear from a consultant point of view. I will also talk about some of the key segments within the smart city business. Let's look at it from a helicopter vision. What are the different stakeholders, new business models, some case studies, very global in nature, that's the scope of our research, and few macro to micro opportunities and what this means for different industries. So let's start off with the definition of smart cities. We believe there are 8 parameters, or a smart diamond that we put these 8 parameters to, that define smart cities. So right from smart energy, to smart buildings, to smart mobility, smart infrastructure, smart technology, smart healthcare, and all these tangible markets leading to some sort of intangible consequences of even smart governance and smart citizens as well. Now, let's look at this in a little more detail. We indeed touched upon this in Charles and Yasser's presentation as well. So on smart energy, we are talking about projects around smart grids and smart meters. We are talking about intelligence within the homes, not only at homes, at workplace, a lot of collaborative technologies, a lot of enterprise networking solutions. We're talking about smart mobility, the access to real-time information of different modes of transport, different intermodal solutions, the ability to give the power to the citizen to decide which mode of transport to take or which route to take that day simply by being connected to the infrastructure. We also have many cities looking at deploying sensor networks in terms of smart technology and what this means in terms of optimal use of resources. We also have a lot of digital and water management, a lot of e-health and m-health, so coming to smart healthcare. This is really important, especially as we see the future of healthcare being a lot of self-monitoring and healthcare at home, a lot of e-health solutions that will come up, and we will also have the consequences of having e-services, smart governance, a lot of connected living, connected lifestyle choices leading to smart citizens as well. So when we started this research, we looked at a bunch of ad hoc city projects across the world. Many cities doing it at a very small micro level, say a part, be it in a street or in a building, or even a portion of the city. And some cities doing it at a pan-city level like Amsterdam, where they deploy an entire citywide smart city initiative. So we have the task of defining what degree of smartness that we could qualify in terms of, okay, this city is now a smart city, and this city is not there yet in terms of a smart city solution. And what we had is the next slide. We selected 26 cities globally that we believe would be smart in 2025. And how we selected these cities are all the cities that have at least around 5 of these 8 initiatives, that have stringent policies and initiatives and infrastructure in place to gain at least 5 of these 8 smart parameters would be selected to be would be a smart city by 2025. So as you can see, roughly we have around 50% of these smart cities in the world from Europe and North America. You might find a lot of smart projects, like I mentioned before, which are not there on the slide simply because we don't believe they have at least 5 of the 8 initiatives, or we believe that initiative is rather small or micro, and they need to build that up to a pan-city-wide smart initiative.
Nothing in Africa or South America?
I just noticed.
I mean, it's really bizarre.
Absolutely.
There are a lot of initiatives within the city, as I mentioned, which is very localized to certain areas of the city and not pan-city. And there are a lot of initiatives which would come up in Africa and in Latin America, which would mean they would perhaps aim to become at 2030 or 2035. But this is for 2025, and this is given the initiatives and infrastructure investment they have today. So this is they need to have at least good infrastructure investment into energy, into healthcare, into deploying that bandwidth in your infrastructure that enables a proper integrated intelligent solutions. And for 2025, we believe that these are cities that are capable of achieving that. This is looking at the same view of smart city market, but more from the perspective of the kind of projects that are within the city environment, smart city business. So this is a helicopter vision, if you will, of the smart city environment itself. And what we did was we spoke to a lot of companies that provide solutions in 2 or 3 of these smart city areas. Companies like IBM, companies like GE, companies like Schneider Electric. And what we saw is at least around 25% of the smart city projects would be for smart energy. This is given the scale of investment that goes within smart meters, digitalization of data analytics within the meters, within the grids, and the level of investment that goes within the technologies within the smart within the city. Additionally, this is closely followed by the smart building market, especially in North America, where the smart building market is roughly around, they have roughly around 9% of the market share. And also, this is also followed by smart infrastructure, which has deployment of different digital and water infrastructure network that lead to that intelligent smart project as well. If I were to translate that information into a regional portfolio, to kind of look at different regions and what they are gaining leadership in the smart city business, we have North America. They're doing very well, extremely well in the smart building scenario, especially as they have the LED certification, and they're quite advanced in terms of what sort of deployment and automation that they have within the building environment. Europe is very good, especially for smart grid market. We have roughly 20 to 25% growth rate. The Southeast Asian, especially in areas in China, we have fantastic investment, especially in building markets and anything to do with infrastructure, mobility, and transport. And Latin America, Middle East, and Africa, we have clubbed them together here. They also have a lot of potential and integrated high-speed rail network, and a lot of connection, especially in countries like Africa and Latin America. The first priority for any government is to connect places through in terms of accessibility, access to water, access to sanitation, and water and wastewater. Hence, the investment is more in laying of the infrastructure, in gaining access to these regions, and then they upgrade that infrastructure to a smart or integrated network. Now, this is the example of a smart town, not really a smart city in my definition, but a smart town called Santander, which is in Spain. And why I picked up this example is that this city has done, it's really small town really, but they have done some very good essential work on deploying nearly 10,000 sensors across the length and breadth of the city. And now what these sensors do is they're simply intelligent data transmitters that which simply transmit silos of data into a big data server. Now, an example of living in the city is you have citizens who have enabled their phones to be GPS enabled, and you could actually have the option, for example, if you're standing in the bus stop in the city and you point to the bus stop, you would have information, real-time information on when the bus would arrive next, how long it would take, the routes it would take, simply because the intelligent sensors are integrated into a seamless infrastructure that gives you information. So that is mobility, but they also have a lot of work done around water infrastructure, or a lot of work done around buildings, and a lot of sensors, especially for street lighting, which automatically dims when there is absolutely no commuters on the road. So this is a very fantastic example of how they have integrated different sectors of the city into an intelligent infrastructure. But during the course of our research, we did find another layer of cities called sustainable cities. And this would perhaps answer your questions of why aren't there enough cities on that map. Now, what we think about sustainable cities is that a smart city and a sustainable city are both have the objective of optimal use of resources. But the way smart city is built is more on connectivity. Connectivity is the defining factor. Silos of information from different areas are brought together through big data convergence to optimize efficient use of resources. But in a sustainable city, the objective is the same, but the approach is more to do with eco-friendly and environmentally friendly initiatives. You have green initiatives, you have recycling, you have waste management, which need not necessarily mean built on an intelligent technology network, but more to do with deploying some environmentally friendly initiatives within building a home or a street or even at the city level. Now, if you take that into account, we have roughly around 92 of these cities, eco-friendly cities and projects coming up in the future in 2025, and Europe has roughly around 42% or 43% of the total number of sustainable cities. So these cities are simply projects. They either built from scratch, like the city near San Francisco, or in the city in Lavasa, which is in India, or they are already existing cities simply upgraded to a sustainable city level. Now let's do a quick analysis of the stakeholders and in terms of what we see and across the different regions. So when we did this research, we did speak to a lot of city stakeholders, like I mentioned, and it was really interesting to see how different models work in different regions, and how different stakeholders, depending on the infrastructure and spatial pattern within the city, how this works. So what we believe is, firstly, there are city stakeholders within the city who are your customers, which are the city authorities, who are the local enterprises you need to partner with to enter the forum in terms of deploying a certain infrastructure, and the citizens themselves. And we also have indirect stakeholders, so stakeholders that come from outside the city maybe, which enable that infrastructure for you. They can be technology and application providers, system integrators, and infrastructure providers that enable the deployment of that objective that your customers as a city would have. Now, what is interesting is to see the various variants of this type of relationship between the direct and indirect stakeholders. Sometimes the city's authorities take complete onus and ownership of deploying that infrastructure or giving that infrastructure, but more often than not, there are mostly popular private partner, public partner relationships that work, especially in cities in Asia. So what we have here is how we could divide that broadly in terms of business models. We have an umpteen number of business models that happen in smart city business, but these are the top 4. So the first one is either where the city authority decides to independently plan and build the city infrastructure. Now this can be either in the ownership of the city authority itself, or the private investor or private company comes and deploys and maintains that. The second is a build, operate, transfer, which is very, obvious, and how you have the ownership transferred to a private sector, and over a period of time, when you have gained that return on investment, it is transferred back to the city authority. Similar to what is done in Australia, where the smart grid project is handled by IBM, is handled by GE, and you have then over a period of time giving them back to the Sydney City Authority. Additionally, you also have the open business model and the build, operate, manage. In my opinion, the build, operate, manage is the most strongest and the most popular, where the city of planner has a particular partner that they are familiar with or they have a particular relationship with, and this partner or the private company operates and manages city services. Or sometimes you would have, like in point 3, which is an open model where the city authorities invite different partners to come and participate, wherein they don't have any preferred partner or relationship, but they invite a lot of partners to come in and build that particular city infrastructure, but there would be some sort of regulatory obligations. In my opinion, number 4, build, operate, manage, has been the most popular, and to all the companies that we have spoken to, they do either go with build, operate, manage or build, operate, and transfer. Sure, this is too much. This is some of the intelligence that we got after talking to some of the companies. Now, as Charles Slide had mentioned, there are a lot of companies in this space, and there are a lot of companies doing specific ad hoc project product services. But what I have here is some of the, I would say, the top 6-7 companies that are in the smart city business that have managed to gather the chunk of the smart city projects between now and 2025. Now, what we did was to understand in terms of integration where a particular company would feature. For example, Cisco is very interesting. They have a lot of, they do a lot of I'm not sure if anyone is from Cisco here, but they do a lot of networking solutions. They do a lot of enterprise communication solutions. And what they have done, they have integrated into their value proposition a smart and connecting solution, which is not apart from their routers and switchers and their networking product portfolio, but it is well integrated. So Cisco comes there, and we have integrators like ABB and Siemens, whom we spoke to as well. And what they do is they are excellent in laying the infrastructure, they're excellent in laying the equipment needed for that smart city business. But more often than not, when I spoke to ABB, they said that they use the software of Cisco or IBM to make that infrastructure intelligent for them. So, for example, there was a project in Brazil where ABB had deployed the particular layout for that grid, but they used the software from IBM to make that intelligent, which means that they don't see themselves as competitors, they see themselves as point providers or partners that they need to converge with. So this also means that you would have people like Accenture, who are purely an IT consulting company, also coming into the space, giving that sort of knowledge and in-house, in terms of ability to gather and information and integrate that. And you would see something in terms of a convergence of competition. So basically, I have 4 sectors, 4 examples here. This is just an illustration to show convergence. We have a lot more players. This 4 sectors is traditionally from energy infrastructure automation. So ideally, companies like Siemens and General Electric, or even IBM have been the big daddies of system integrators, and they have now been, they will slowly have been converging with a lot of companies to come to that point of convergence to give a holistic approach to a smart city. So a smart city as a customer would want a complete solution and is not really interested in different projects. They want a solution that is integrated and intelligent, and for that many of these companies need to partner and converge. But what is also interesting is on the left-hand side, a lot of telecom companies and a lot of IT companies who are slowly coming into this space, which means that now traditional engineering companies like Siemens and GE have to also compete with people in the likes of Google, in the likes of Microsoft, for example, and the likes of HP, which earlier they would have never thought would be their competitors in this space. But the moral of the story is you would see a lot of convergence And this could be different in different markets depending on the level of penetration you have, depending on the kind of capability that you have in that region. Very quickly, this is just an example of Stockholm Royal Seaport, a flagship project of ABB and Ericsson, and an example of how different communication technology, different grid technology, and different ICT technology, and how numerous companies had to come together, like Ericsson, ABB, Electrolux, Swedish ICT, for example, had to partner and converge to deliver that holistic approach in Royal Seaport, which is an urban district near Stockholm. So this is my last slide. So our analysis is based on something called macro to micro. Now, what is macro to micro? We believe that the information we present to you in terms of what is the future megatrends, what are the future cities, any megatrend should be taken down to a sub-trend level, be it a smart city or be it sustainable cities, and then you look at what it means to your business, what it means to your industry, put yourself out in the future. And that information that I've given you today is meaningful only if you translate to yourself at a very micro level in what it means in terms of your future corporate strategy, or what it means in terms of your technology planning, or what it means to your products and customers. So that step 4 and 5 is to figure out what it means in terms of impact to your future of technology, and what it means in analyzing your unmet needs of your customers, and perhaps there you would find your white space opportunities for 2025. So lastly, some of the opportunities and implications across different sectors is very important. This is simply the macro to micro we have done for a smart city business. So for automotive, you have immense demand for traffic management, electric vehicle charging infrastructure. For energy, for example, you have a lot on smart meters, smart grids, smart home appliances. For logistics business, we have a lot of real-time solutions on integration of a lot of transport providers, giving that intelligent, seamless solution across your supply chain. For ICT, of course, you have connected living, connected people, connected workplace. You have a lot of demand for security, physical security, mobility security, building security, and of course, healthcare, e-health, m-health, and integrated health system as well. So my final prediction, what are your key takeaways for today? So we will have 26 of smart cities and 92 sustainable cities. You will have a market roughly around 1.3 billion. This is not at all surprising, given the fact that China just announced a couple of weeks ago that they are investing. That has to be 3.3 trillion. And China is investing roughly around 320 billion between now and 2025. And then you have a lot of companies converging to offer that smart capabilities, and you will have a lot of cities deploying infrastructure capable of location-based services, navigation, augmented reality, any sort of multimodal user interfaces, and you will have a lot of accessibility to data and information, and a lot of enabling of e-services to citizens. And that brings me to the end of my 15 minutes. Thank you so much.